Welcome to the Deep Dive Podcast.
Okay, so we're diving into something a little different today.
Uh-huh.
It's a design project brief,
Okay.
and it's for a podcast.
All right.
And the podcast is called
Yeah.
Based on a True Story,
Interesting.
which I thought was kind of a cool name,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially for a podcast about art history.
Yeah, definitely gets you thinking, like,
Right.
what's the true story here?
Exactly. What's the story behind the story?
Yeah.
And so the brief mentions that the podcast is going to be like monthly deep dives
Okay.
into major art history events
Mm-hmm.
and like influential artists.
Cool.
And they even give us some examples for like potential thumbnail topics.
Oh, nice.
Like one is Vincent's Pain, the story of Van Gogh.
Oh, wow.
Another one's like In the Shadows, Edward Hopper's use of light and shadow.
Like that?
And then there's even one called Shredded Banksy sends a message.
Oh, very cool.
So
Yeah, they're really leaning into that
yeah.
storytelling vibe.
And you know, part of the reason they're doing that is because it says here in the brief that their target audience is highly educated young professionals,
Mm-hmm.
probably working in like,
Yeah.
busy office settings.
Makes sense.
They want to listen to something interesting,
Right.
something engaging,
Yeah.
and they probably really appreciate a good story.
Absolutely. And they're smart.
Right.
You know, they can't be fooled by just like,
Right. Like a hard sell.
yeah, exactly.
Gimmicks and all that.
Yeah, so like how do we even begin to design something that appeals to this audience?
Well, I think you kind of hit it on the head there with the
Yeah.
not being fooled by gimmicks. They want clean,
Right.
simple messaging.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, like a very minimalist color palette.
Okay.
Maybe even just black and white
Mm-hmm.
with like a single accent color
Oh, that's just nice.
and then a lot of white space.
God, I like that.
To let everything breathe,
Yeah.
make it feel sophisticated,
Right.
and then the typography,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
You got to go with something bold and legible.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Futura or a Helvetica.
Oh, that's good.
Something that feels confident
Yeah.
and clear.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I know it said in the brief, too,
Mm-hmm.
that there's like over 3.5 million podcasts
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
out there already.
Yeah.
So,
how do you stand out?
yeah, how do you stand out in that crowd
Right.
without,
Yeah.
turning off this audience?
Exactly. You don't want to use like cheesy gimmicks or
No.
anything like that.
So what do we do?
Well, I think this is where visual storytelling
Okay.
really comes into play.
I like that.
You got to think of these thumbnails
Yeah.
as like mini movie posters.
Oh, interesting.
Each one has to tell a story.
Yeah.
Capture the essence of that episode
Mm-hmm.
using color and typography and imagery
Right.
to give you a certain mood or emotion.
So like for that Vincent's Pain one.
Exactly, like for Vincent's Pain. You could use like swirling brushstrokes
Oh, yeah.
and a vibrant color palette.
Okay.
Maybe even something that feels a little agitated
Right?
to reflect his life.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, for that Edward Hopper one,
Yeah. In the shadows.
yeah, you could use a more muted palette
Okay.
with stark contrasts.
Right. That
Yeah,
show the loneliness.
Exactly, the loneliness, the isolation that he was so known for.
It's like each thumbnail is like a little window into the story.
Like a little window into the story.
And speaking of stories,
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how they wanted a 7th thumbnail
Oh, yeah.
based on a topic chosen by the designer.
Yeah, that's a really cool challenge.
I know.
It's like they're saying, show us
Yeah.
what you're passionate about
Yeah, what you're interested in.
within the art world.
What would you do?
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
I know there's so many options.
There's so many directions you could go.
Yeah.
I think I would focus on bridging the gap between like
Hi.
a historical art movement
Hmm.
and a contemporary issue.
Oh, interesting.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
I might explore how the Art Deco movement,
Okay.
with its emphasis on like geometric forms
Right.
and luxurious materials,
Yeah.
could inspire like modern sustainable design practices.
Oh, wow.
Like you could have a thumbnail with sleek, stylized lines
I like it.
and maybe a color palette inspired by recycled material,
Oh, that's cool.
like earthy greens and muted blues.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that connection between
Yeah.
art history and modern day issues
Mm-hmm.
is something that this audience would really,
Totally. It speaks to their
Yeah.
curiosity.
and their intelligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows how the past informs the present,
Yeah.
which is something I think we can all learn from.
This has been really
It's
interesting.
fascinating to think about.
Yeah, to think about how
Yeah.
to design something for such a specific audience.
Absolutely.
So I guess, like, just to kind of recap,
Yeah.
we're talking about a target audience that values intelligence
Yes.
and substance.
Substance over hype.
Right.
Oh, sure.
They don't want to be tricked.
No, they want authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need a clean,
Yes.
sophisticated design that tells a story.
A visual story.
Right, and that 7th thumbnail.
Yeah.
Like a chance to add something
You
special.
have your own unique take
Right.
on the art world.
Exactly.
It's all about creating a visual language
Yeah.
that speaks to the heart of the podcast.
And the audience.
And the audience.
Well said.
Thank you.
So for everyone listening,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a challenge.
Ooh, I like challenges.
If you had to design a podcast logo and thumbnails
Okay.
to grab your attention,
Yeah.
what would they look like?
Hmm.
What stories would they tell?
That's a good question.
Yeah, go explore the world of podcast branding and design.
It's a fascinating world.
You might be surprised
Yeah,
by what you find.
absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, this was fun.
I'll see you next time.
All right, see you later.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Dive Podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more great content.